Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode in our series where we are interviewing students all across the nation from the topmost B schools. Today, we are having with us Rajdeep, who is a recent graduate from IIM Indore. So, welcome on board, Rajdeep.
Thank you. Thank you, Akhil. First of all, thanks a lot to Akhil and College Junior for having me here to share my experiences of IIM Indore. So to begin with, I did on an educational front, I did my graduation from VIT Vellore in the field of electronics and communications. Post that, I got placed in TCS as a system engineer, where I had worked for 9 months. It got reduced to 9 months because of the COVID thing that was there at that point of time. So my joining got delayed basically. And then during working at TCS itself, I prepared for CAT and then wrote the CAT exam, and then I got into IIM Indore, and here I am sitting in front of you right now, placed at DE Shaw currently. So, okay, so like when I was in my college days, at my UG days particularly, I had a lot of interest in following the stock market and about the various economic actions that are happening all over the world. So that kind of intrigued me, like, to know more about this field. And then when I decided that I have to do MBA, I thought that finance is the only field that can keep me interested going forward. So I thought, okay, this is one field that I definitely want to explore, and I kept exploring this field further. Sure. So thing is that I interned at DE Shaw as well. So basically I'm a PPO holder at DE Shaw, and the role at DE Shaw was in the role of financial operations. The kind of work that I did at DE Shaw was towards, so basically DE Shaw is a hedge fund, and the kind of work that DE Shaw basically relates with the trade in placing the trades in various kind of asset classes. Like, like if I have to explain what is asset classes, then it's like, about equities, about debt, and also those are various asset classes where you invest your money in the hope of getting a return in the future, right? So our work was mainly to monitor like which geographies, which assets are more profitable, which geographies we can expand into, and where we can place our trades. So my work was related to the Venezuelan domain, and then I had to identify what are the opportunities that are there. And if so Venezuela, as many of you would be aware, has a lot of sanctions placed on it currently by the US and the other European nations. So the job was difficult at the beginning because with so many restrictions, finding out how you can make inroads into the financial sector of Venezuela, and at the same time you have to safeguard yourself from the sanctions that are placed, because DE Shaw, being a US company, has to be aware of all the sanctions. So my work was to understand those sanctions, make an inroad, like where we can venture, where we should not, and where we should avoid, like that. So that kind of played along with my interest of reading the news, keeping myself abreast with the current affairs. So that kind of further formed my interest in the world of finance and made me sure, yes, finance is my field, and I want to keep my interest going ahead with the finance field. Well, I think it's like I cannot place it as in one particular way as advantages or disadvantages. I think it's a double-edged sword, because as you mentioned, being one of the highest batch size in the all IIM fraternity, there is a lot of competition. Like when we sit for the placements, when we sit at the exams, and there's a lot of competition, and it's a cutthroat competition. But the thing is, IIM Indore has always had a 100% placement record. So at the end, we knew that yes, placement is not going to be an issue. We are going to walk out of this place with a job in hand. So now that leaves us with 600 people whom you can gel around with, whom you can talk and get to socialize with them. And first of all, it helps us to network. Like 600 strong people, get to network, get to know about them. I think that helps moving ahead when we get into the industry as well. So plus being the highest batch size, the alumni network of IIM Indore is also one of the largest. So if you pick up any country, say if you pick up any company or geography for that matter, IIM Indore student will be there. So I think I would not place it as disadvantages. I would say that yes, being a batch size has its pros larger than the cons. Plus, along with that, the social life was also amazing because so many people, we get to party a lot, hang around with people, get to know their experiences. Yeah, like both within the campus and outside the campus, in fact. So like there would be times, like evening. So we had our classes probably in the afternoon or in the late night slot. So it was the evening that we were mostly free. So there were certain places, there were certain spots in the campus where you just go out and have the tea. So there was this one special shop called Indrani. Okay. So we would have those Indrani ki chai. We would like call out our friends like, "Chal aaja Indrani ki chai peete hain." Like we would start. It was like we would start our classes with that Indrani ki chai. I mean, a day without an Indrani ki chai is impossible to imagine. So yeah, I mean that's a great time that I had 2 years over there. Right. So at IIM Indore, we have both clubs and committees. So committees are the ones responsible for larger matters. For example, there were a lot of committees in terms of, say, academic affairs committee, there was infrastructure committee, culture committee, and so many more. So there used to be a selection process for both the committees and the clubs, beginning with the committees. And then, so there was a rule that like if you get placed or if you get selected in one of the committees, you cannot apply for any other committees or clubs for that matter. So in my case, I did not get into any of the committees, but I got into one of the clubs, and it was the club's name was Currency, which is apparently the economics and the international business club of IIM Indore. So our main focus was to spread the knowledge of economics and the various geopolitical situations that are happening around the world, including the Russia-Ukraine war that is going on right now. So our job was to publish various macro scans, conduct various events where we can propagate this knowledge to the students so that they are aware of the situation and at times aware of the various competitions that they can take part of. These kind of knowledge helps a lot in those respects. So we try to help them in those matters. There were a lot of moments actually. I cannot pinpoint out to one of them. So when we got in, our seniors were there to guide us and all. So taking in those lessons from our senior team, and when we were the senior team, when we got to the chance to choose our junior team. So the kind of memories that we made, the kind of interviews that we set out, the kind of processes that we set out for the junior team, and the brainstorming that we had to do along with that. So I think that was one time where we all the members sat together and had fun, had sometimes heated discussions as well. But at the end, it all turned out to be a great memory. I think since then, I mean, the junior team, the senior team, they all bonded very well. We had a lot of party sessions as well together. And yeah, I mean, the entire journey is memorable. I cannot pick out any one moment as such. Right. So the Rural Immersion Program is one of the most innovative programs that I think it's there only in IIM Indore, as far as my knowledge is concerned. So the thing is that the main objective of this program is to identify some of the pressing causes that our rural community was, troubled, and they were having troubles with. So in my first year, so the problem in my first year was there was COVID wave at that time, right? We were all at homes. So we had the challenge to conduct this program through an offline mode itself. Otherwise, what happens is in the current situation, if you're there right now, then you would be actually visiting those villages, interacting with the villagers there then itself, and they'll have to stay there itself. So just a parallel if I have to draw, if the viewers have watched that series called Panchayat, so there like you have to that the protagonist, he had to stay at that Panchayat's office and all. So when we actually go to the villages, we also got accommodation like that. So we would be very much grounded, no pun intended, and then just interacting with the villagers on their issues, taking their feedback. So like we'll have an objective in mind. We'll prepare a questionnaire of our own, pretty much like a market survey kind of thing. We'll prepare a questionnaire of our own, and then we'll go around with the villagers, getting their views, getting to know the exact problems that they face. And then once we have all those data compiled, we'll present a comprehensive report to the district administration over there. And take their opinions as well, like how do they plan to tackle this kind of problem. In case they want our consultation or advice, we'll have a chat with them. We'll suggest some of our solutions or suggestions to them, so that ultimately the rural people are the ones who should get benefited from this. Sure. So as I mentioned, I was there in a virtual. So our program, like our year program, was conducted in a virtual mode, right? So I got the district of Sehor, which is in Madhya Pradesh only, and our objective was to identify like whether the COVID protocols are being implemented or not. So on paper we have all this stuff like you should wear a mask, you should wear and all that kind of stuff is there, but like whether they are being implemented correctly or not, and if they're not being implemented, what is the reason that the villages are not able to stick to those regulations. So being at home, we were supposed to make calls to the villagers. So we had got these the phone numbers from the district administration itself, and then we used to call them up. We had to have a very short interview because village people can understand, so they do not have that large amount of patience, right? So we just need to conduct like 2-3 minutes of an interview, get their opinions on the pressing issues, and then post that, when we understood their point of view, we formulated that entire thing in a more concise manner, so that we could presented the report to our district administration as well. So like these are the issues, these are the measures that are not being implemented, and this is the possible reason that they're not being implemented because of, and they gave suggestions as well. So I think it lasted for 1 or 2 weeks. But the memories at that time, so it is not memories, I would say, but nonetheless, the interactions that I had with the villagers, they were quite enriching. So Okay, so no, I was not part of the Himalayan Outbound program, but like my friends, they went to the Himalayan Outbound program, and I took their experiences. I listened to their experiences as well. So thing is ki you actually go to Himalayan destinations. So in our year, we went to Ladakh. And then so it's like around a group of 30-40 individuals would go, along with some of the faculties who would accompany them as well. So our objective, the entire objective of the program, was to build a sort of resilience, not only resilience, but at the same time, because you can imagine like you're in Himalaya, the weather is adverse, the climatic conditions are very extreme as well, right? So at that kind of a moment, how are you able to handle yourself, and how the decisions that you're taking, the impact that it has on you as well as on your colleagues as well. So for example, what we used to do was like go to Ladakh, then have some targets every day, like this much of ascent we have to cover today. So like suppose, I'm just taking a rough example, say 50 to 60 meters of ascent or trek that you had to do to get to a particular resting point. Okay. Once we reach there, we would set up the camp over there, and then one of our faculties who would lead this program, he would actually get in a discussion with all of us. He would present like what are the difficulties that he faced. Then he would also give us a lecture on like in these extreme conditions, what are the things that need to be taken care of. And being the fellow managers, we have to take very kind of drastic decisions, and like drastic at the moment kind of decisions. You do not have much reaction time as well, right? So what are the areas that we should focus upon? What does this program can teach you about this methodology? So this was the main focus of this program, and I have had listened to the experience. They said that it was very enriching. The lectures were there, but the trek was the more fun part. So definitely. I think it's a one, whoever comes in, he or she should definitely go for the Himalayan Outbound program. So like the thing is, 1 year it got cancelled because of the COVID thing, and only 1 year I could see that program actually go ahead. Okay, so as I mentioned, like I've been pretty much a finance guy, right? So definitely there were many subjects in finance that interested me. Particularly, I felt it was the faculties who made the subject more interesting at times. For example, so as I said, like when I got into IIM Indore, the only finance knowledge that I had was like, okay, this is the stock market. this is a stock, and like if I have to say like analyze the stock, I would do say simple fundamental, and I will just look at the PE ratio and all, and look up and make a very rudimentary kind of analysis. Okay, that had very much significance also. But when I came in, so when you come in, the first finance subject is accounting, and being an engineer and being a science guy, accounting was one thing that never touched in my life. So the faculty that I had got at that time, he had made accounting so simple. I mean, I knew, okay, yeah, theek hai, like even if it's accounting, it's not a dreadful subject. That the kind of fear that I have, it's not required. I can actually tackle that. And apparently I did. I apparently scored quite well. I mean, much above than I expected. So yeah, finance subjects were there. Apart from that, there's certain faculties in strategies as well. So there's a subject called growth strategies at finance. It's it's being taught by Basu sir, and hands down, he's one of the best faculties that I've studied from, because the best thing about that subject was, even though there's a defined curriculum, right, he would make the class so much interesting that, you would often deviate from the topic, and that deviation would always towards towards geopolitics. He would always try to mix geopolitics with, the growth strategies, and how, these two always have to coexist. Otherwise, your growth strategy standalone is not sustainable. So I think that was an interesting class that I always I never missed. In fact, like we had to have that class at 9 a.m. So the 9 a.m. classes were always difficult to attend, but that was one subject I always made sure that no matter what, I am going to attend this. Okay, so memorable experience. I think it was towards the end of those subject, and we were having some discussion on some shipping industry and all that, right? So we know that like the Russian empire that is there is one part of the ocean that is still unexplored, right? And Russia is actually making inroads into the, if I'm not wrong, it was the Atlantic Ocean. They're making inroads into that because it's covered by ice, but Russia is making such arrangements that currently the trade route goes to the Strait of Malacca, the Straits of Hormuz, and kind of that. They're trying to make an alternate trade route around that path. So if that materializes, maybe around 10-20% of the world trade will shift in that area immediately. So so I mean, that will have a huge impact, the entire world dynamics, how the trade happens and all. So that was an interesting discussion that I had with Basu sir. Okay. Well, I would say the first term at IIM Indore was the most challenging one. Okay. Because the thing is, when you get into IIM Indore, like there are compartments of various things. Like you have assignments, you have to manage academics, you have to manage your PORs. So PORs are the positions of responsibility, right? So position of responsibility, like getting into a club or a committee and all. Because apparently, when you get into one of these, you can actually mention this as well in your CV, right? So this becomes basically a position of responsibility, and we have to appear for the summer internship interviews as well around that time. So it happens around August, September, and we get inside around July around. So you have to make your CV, you have to manage your academics, you have to prepare for those interviews, and also everything, goes on simultaneously. So we hardly used to get around 2-3 hours of sleep every day. Wow. Those 2-3 months, I think, were the most challenging. I never have been grilled so much ever in my life. I mean, there were at times I would actually, there was I would reach a breaking point. I'm done, man. I'm done with MBA. Just let me get out of here. I do not want a job. I was happy with the previous job over there. But the thing is, when you see the other people struggling as well, and then they are there for you, they'll motivate you, okay, fine, you can manage, we'll do this together, we'll do that together and all. So then you just kind of sail through as well. So if you can sail through the 2-3 months of MBA, in the initial 2-3 months, I mean, MBA is a cakewalk after that.
Oh wow! So, and I imagine that prepares you for the corporate world. I mean, if you can handle that, then what else is that?
Exactly. I mean, these 2-3 months, in fact, prepare you for the corporate also, because there are so many things going on, and you'll have a strict deadlines as well. So in fact, even in the corporate, like I was there at TCS, I worked at TCS. So I know like we used to have the deadlines, and often we would set the deadlines. Suppose my manager tells me like this is the task that I want to achieve. I'll tell him that no, like this, I need at least 2-3 days kind of thing. I would set the deadline on my own. But here the case is the deadline would be set by some higher authority, and it would be something which was meant to torture you. It's meant to, like make you totally so resilient that you can take up any challenge that comes afterwards. So,
wow.
I mean, I'm really grateful that happened. I mean, although I kind of cursed it, I won't lie. I did curse it, what is this and all. But now out of IIM Indore, I'm really grateful that those 2-3 months happened, and I'm a much evolved person. Well, Akhil, there is one memory that is very close to me, and I like to share that because, see, the thing is, you must be aware that IIM Indore has this IPM program as well.
Yes.
It is just for the students who have just passed out after the 12th class.
Right.
So I had applied for the IPM course as well at that time. So I passed out around 2015. So I had applied for that. And although I cleared the first round, I cleared the aptitude test. But then when I went for the interview was at IIM Indore itself. So I went for the interview, and my father accompanied me as well. And I had given the interview, but I was sure that I'm not gonna make it because I was not interested in doing management at that time. I was like, I have to do engineering. So this was just like a time pass kind of thing that I did. But my father was like, no, you have to do this and all. But when I told him that no, the interview went very bad and all, and he didn't say a word. So when we were coming out of the gate of IIM Indore, I told him, Papa, let's just click a photo in front of IIM Indore. I just want to remember, yes, at least I came in front of IIM Indore. He said that, no, I'm not going to take a picture with you. Till the day you have the admission offer with you. I was very disheartened at that day. I was like, so that day I made a resolute that one day or the other I'll definitely get into one of these so-called IIMs, and I'm going to show it to my father. So, just when I was coming out of the college after taking my degree, I actually clicked that photo with my father. So that is one of the fondest memories that I have, that I made my father proud. Okay, well, I wouldn't say that there's anything lacking inside the campus. I mean, the major issues that the entire batch had was, so the city of Indore is actually 20 kilometers away from our campus. So whenever we needed something important and all, every time we had to go to the city of Indore to get that thing done. So I mean, outside the campus there was nothing. It was like total barren forest that was there. So that is the only issue that I have. Other than that, I do not have any complaints. But yeah, I mean, more food joints at the campus will definitely help the students a lot. And yeah, I think academic-wise, I mean, we have the top-notch faculties inside campus, and the classroom infrastructure is actually up to the mark to all the pre-med schools that are there in the country. So I don't think that there is scope of any improvement as such, but yeah, certain auxiliary matters can be taken care of. Absolutely, man. I'm telling you, MBA is something that, I was very skeptical about initially, but as I mentioned, my father was the one who was pushing me to actually do an MBA. I was like, there's no point of doing an MBA and all, but I'm glad that he pushed me and actually made, because the thing is, at the time of IIM Indore, I had an offer from IIT Kanpur as well in Electronics Communications MS. So I rejected that offer, got into IIM. The best thing about an MBA is that, it gives you exposure to multiple areas. Like you have exposure to marketing, you have operations, consultancy, and every aspect. So what happens is, it improves the thought processes. So for that matter, like when we go into the corporate now, whenever a problem is presented in front of us, we would be able to, find out the root cause of that problem in a more structured manner, which I think is not taught in any of the courses. Like, I do not know about the economics and commerce courses what are there, but in engineering is definitely not there. So, getting to the main root cause, if you can get to the main root cause, you can actually, end up solving the problem more efficiently. So that is what I think an MBA teaches you, to analyze the situation and, and find out the various possible options or solutions that can be there. Because the best thing about an MBA here is, or in any of the IIMs for that matter, is we follow a case-based study, right? So like what happens is, like say I go into finance class, right? Probably a case of an Indigo would be taken up. Indigo Airlines would be taken up care of. Like, so they'll be showing that this is the kind of financials that they had in the previous year, but now they're seeing a decline. So we'll be analyzing like what were the macroeconomic factors at that point of time, and what are the other heads under which Indigo had suffered, due to which the bottom line was affected and all. So we'll be analyzing on multiple fronts, then finally, funnel it down to the main one root cause. After that, we can branch it ahead. So like we can follow a bottom-up approach as well when we're solving the problem. So I think this is one thing that is an MBA teaches us, and I'm really grateful because on a personal front, my thinking process has improved immensely. Like I didn't used to look at the problems that I currently look at the way right now. So yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful and thankful to IIM Indore for giving me this exposure and learnings.
To get to the root of the root and root it out. Thank you so much, Rajdeep, for joining us today. You really helped us get to the root of what it's like to be at IIM Indore, and I am sure the viewers has had a great time listening to you talk today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Akhil.